When Gran Turismo 2 was released in 1999, the internet was a very different place. Cat memes were emerging, as were video games websites and forums. You would no longer necessarily consult a physical guide for tips and cheats. You might head online instead. But back in those days, there was little to no verification for anything posted online. If you wanted to, you could just make up a cheat for a video game, and in full knowledge of it being completely fake, send it to a site like GameSpot or IGN, and they'd probably publish it. And Gran Turismo 2 was one of those games that seemed to attract a lot of rumours. These rumours were mainly related to two cars, the McLaren F1 and the Mercedes-Benz CLK-GTR. I can understand why though. For some reason, the interior of the McLaren F1 was used on a North American cover for the game, and the CLK-GTR was pictured in pre-release screenshots. And the fact that neither vehicle was present in the game didn't stop people from saying that these cars were indeed unlockable. And I recall that there were also rumours that you could even find a Formula 1 car in Gran Turismo 2. This wasn't true, of course. Until now. The latest version of the Gran Turismo 2 A-Spec mod offers the opportunity to drive a Formula 1 car on GT2. So how do we do this? Well, let's head to the West City and to the Peugeot dealership. And once we're there, what we can do is go to special models, skip past the 206 rally car and the Orchestra, which is also exclusive to this mod, and we can find the Prost AP02, which had a Peugeot engine, hence why it's here. And at 4 million credits, it's the most expensive car in Gran Turismo 2. It has 752 horsepower and weighs 1,322 pounds. We can also see that this is the number 19 car driven by Jarno Trulli. Now if we head to the South City and we go to Ford, we might just find another Formula 1 car here too. We will have to cycle through a couple of special models. But here we are, the Minardi M01, also from the 1999 Formula 1 World Championship. Minardi had Ford engines. Ford seems like the best place for it. Like the Prost, it costs a joint record amount of credits, 4 mil. It weighs the same, but has slightly less horsepower than the AP02, at 736. And this is the number 20 car, driven by Luca Badoer. So, what can we do with these new F1 cars? Well, the A-Spec mod guys have given us a brand new F1 championship to race in. 5 races, 10 laps each, let's do it. Who will our competitors be? First up is the McLaren MP414, driven by Mika Häkkinen. Mika won the second of his back-to-back World Championships in 1999, with Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari a very close second, just 2 points adrift of Mika's tally. Häkkinen would go on to finish second in the following year in 2000, before going on a sabbatical from F1 at the end of 2001, from which he never returned. Next up is the Jordan 199, driven by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Jordan was something of a surprise package in 1999, with Frentzen frequently mixing it up with the Ferraris and the McLarens, and eventually finishing third in the championship. Frentzen previously had a couple of average seasons at Williams before 1999, and this standout season got his career back on track. Then there's the Benetton B199, driven by Giancarlo Fisichella. Fisi finished 9th in the drivers' standings, but did pick up one podium in Canada. Sadly, Benetton were on the decline at this point in time, with their final win previously coming in 1997. The car was still quick enough for Fisichella, regularly finishing within the points in the first half of the season at least, Okay, next is the Stewart SF3 driven by Johnny Herbert. 1999 was the final year for the Stewart GP team, before they were bought by Ford, who rebranded the team as Jaguar the following year. And what a way to end it. Herbert won the European Grand Prix towards the end of the season, with teammate Rubens Barrichello also finishing third, his third podium of the season, meaning Stewart finished fourth in the constructors' standings. And we had the Ferrari F399 driven by Michael Schumacher. Michael only finished fifth in the drivers' standings, but that's because he missed the majority of the season after sustaining a broken leg after his brakes failed at the British Grand Prix. He still picked up 2 wins early in the season, and after getting the keys to his Ferrari back from replacement driver Mika Salo, did everything he could to help Irvine's bid for the title, which ultimately came up just short. All these cars are unlockable, but I haven't accessed them yet. Okay, let's see if we can win the championship. I've picked the Prost over the Minardi, as it has about 20 more horsepower. And I'll need those extra horses if we want to beat the likes of Häkkinen and Schumacher. The first race of the season is at Grand Valley Speedway. Here we go. The first thing to mention is that these cars are challenging to drive, and even the AI struggles, just like Frentzen does into the first corner. And they're rightly challenging, I think. Formula 1 is the pinnacle of motorsport, and these cars would be extremely challenging to drive in real life. We're also up against 2 Minardis, a Stewart and the McLaren, which is leading at the moment, which is probably what you'd expect. The AI are pretty quick in these F1 cars, even if that does lead them to spinning off a few times. And don't be surprised if you end up going off circuit in these vehicles while you're still getting used to them. Grand Valley is probably the second best circuit in this championship for the F1 cars. We've got 4 races left, so I'll talk you through my thoughts on each one as we go. Here we are, coming to the final lap, and we're only in second place. A combination of the AI speed and the challenge of driving the F1 cars makes for a difficult race. But we wouldn't want it easy, would we? After a tough few corners where Mika was not giving me any space at all, I decided not to give Mika any space either and just go for it. Quite uncharacteristic of Mika Häkkinen. So I went for a dive bomb into the hairpin into the tunnel, giving Mika just enough room on the exit. And we managed to stay there for the rest of the lap, taking the win. Let's quickly look back at a couple of crashes we missed in the race. Here comes Johnny Herbert into the first corner, losing it under braking and heading into the gravel trap. And here's Johnny Herbert 1 lap later, losing it under braking and not even making it into the gravel trap. And here's Johnny Herbert. I think you see where this is going now. And just for good measure, here's one final mishap for Johnny. The second race of the championship is at Rome Circuit. This is the track where I think the F1 cars perform best. It's very flat, which these cars love. As you'll see, we'll come to some bumpy tracks later, and they really upset the balance of the car and make it pretty unpredictable. Even in a Prost that's down on power compared to most of the other cars in the race, I really didn't have any issues with taking the lead in this Grand Prix and staying there for the rest of the race. It did take me until the start of lap 4 to get past everyone though, after some tough battles with the Stewart in particular. The Jordan of Frentzen was the car at the front though, rather than the McLaren. Having seen other people's videos on the F1 cars, including their stats, I believe the Jordan Mugen Honda actually has the most powerful engine in terms of brake horsepower, rather than the Ferrari or the McLaren. Deep Forest is the third event of the championship, and let me tell you, this is where it gets tricky. It's a very bumpy and undulating circuit and really tests your reactions in these cars. At about 3 points in this lap, you'll notice the car have a dramatic snap of oversteer, which you just have to react to. The one thing that makes this event a little easier is that the other drivers are going to have as much trouble as you are. The fourth race in the championship is held at Autumn Ring. We get a bit of wheel spin off the line and lose some ground initially. I have a couple of bad corners early on in the lap and it looks like we're very much on the back foot. But you'd be surprised at just how fast things can change in this championship. Johnny Herbert somehow manages to wheelie an F1 car, and we slowly pick off the others until we briefly take the lead. Autumn Ring is reasonably challenging as it's bumpy in places, and the F1 cars don't take kindly to this. But easier than Deep Forest, I would say. Coming on to the last lap, I find myself back in third place. Once again, not in the ideal place near the end of the Grand Prix. After an average first half of the lap, I still have it all to do. And we managed to get a double overtake on these two left-handers, which are actually two of the most tricky corners for the F1 cars. We just need to hold the lead until the end of the lap. I'm going to be quite conservative here, not taking any risks, and we cross the line to win the race. On to the final race at Midfield now. I thought these cars would be well suited to Midfield, and vice versa, but I was surprised to see that this wasn't quite the case. Midfield is surprisingly bumpy in places, which can really catch you out. It's also quite a fast track, which means it can be hard to react fast enough to some snaps of oversteer. The first corner is tricky. The long, slow left-hander is also tricky, and also the hairpin near the end of the lap. It's so easy to have a lazy spin if you get on the power too early. Although I didn't record it, we did manage to cross the line in first place and wrap up the championship. Although to be honest, if we didn't win the last race, I think we were far ahead enough in the championship to win anyway. But it's still nice. That's an extra 450,000 credits in our pocket. And a prize car. But what will it be? And it's the Honda RA099. With 788 horsepower, it's more powerful than the Minardi and the Prost, while weighing the same amount. Let's go and take it for a spin and I'll tell you more about it. The RA099 was a prototype Formula 1 car built by Honda with the intention of coming back to Grand Prix racing as a full-time constructor, not just an engine supplier. Harvey Postlethwaite was hired as the chief designer, and Jos Verstappen was hired to test the prototype at Jerez. The car clocked some competitive midfield times and looked promising, but Dr. Postlethwaite died of a sudden heart attack, and the project was shelved as a result. Instead, Honda supplied the BAR team with engines for the 2000 season, and eventually took over the team in 2006. But there is also a second prize car, the Jaguar Formula 1 Concept. This car also has 788 horsepower, making it one of the quickest F1 cars in the A-Spec mod. As the name suggests, This was a concept car built by Jaguar prior to their takeover of the Stewart team in the 2000 season of Formula 1. Again, let's take a look at it on track. Despite Stewart having their most successful season in their short history in 1999, the team was bought by Ford, who was already a minority shareholder in the Stewart team. The price was reported to be anywhere from £65 to £100 million. Eddie Irvine moved from Ferrari to Jaguar in the 2000 season to lead the team off the back of a second place finish in the championship. However, Jaguar's results were pretty poor over the course of their 4 seasons in F1, despite Irvine bagging a handful of podiums, and Ford eventually sold the team to Red Bull for £1. And the rest is very much history. And on that bombshell, it's time to end the video. Thank you for watching.